Hey everyone, welcome back to Living Electric. We are talking about a lot today, but we're going more of like a recap of our previous episodes, touching base on those, doing some updates, and then Alex is going to give us a summary of what it's been like to charge at his house, cost, and so forth, since one of our most popular episodes has been how much does it cost to charge an electric vehicle. So we want to provide an update on that since things are getting more expensive.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, especially, Ohio has actually stayed pretty consistent. Like, electricity rates haven't changed, but, like, my specific situation has changed because I've gone from, the luxury of having free charging at either work or my garage I was renting to now, paying to install a charger and paying, my own utility bill for my house. It's great growing up. So
right.
it's
fun
really
being an
great.
adult.
I just love spending more money on things. So
right. I know. I wish I could go back to my childhood self and be like, don't grow up.
Right.
Just don't. Or don't rush it.
Right. I remember when I was little thinking like $100 was like just so much money. I'm like, if I had $100, like, do you like I could retire?
I know. Right.
Now it's
I
like
know.
It's like, oh god, like I just spent $100 like the other day between like all of my grocery shopping and like grabbing a quick bite to eat, and then it's like, oh, I've just spent over $100. So
I know.
It's great.
I know. Yeah, just for Tyler and I, normally it's around like $200 for our groceries because we'll go to like Costco, Whole Foods, Aldi, like like all those stores, and like the vegan alternatives are obviously more expensive depending on what you're getting.
There's your problem, is the vegan food.
It's yeah. Don't be vegan and you'll save money.
Right.
Yeah. Oh man, no. I just got to keep working for the vegan lifestyle.
That's right. Yeah. So first off, I do want to hear about your Magic Dock experience. So you want to share how that went? You drove up to New York, right?
Yeah. So I'll keep it quick because it was a relatively brief trip. But we did take our mini electric outside of its normal range, which was actually something that blew Tyler's in my mind, is how efficient that vehicle is, even in like 37-degree weather. We had a tailwind going to Fredonia, New York, but heading back, we were driving directly into the wind, and we had to stop. It was a total of 6 charging stops because that Mini has a range of, at max, about 114 miles in good weather. But Tyler was saying about like 90 to 100 miles. So we had to stop about 6 total times on this trip.
Oh my gosh.
But but what was great is that every single Electrify America station worked instantly. There was no issue with like starting a charge or anything. And because the Mini has, I think it's like a 32 kilowatt hour battery, it's a smaller battery, it charged pretty much to 100% in about 25 to 30 minutes, which was not bad. It made the trip pretty fast. But we drove to Fredonia, New York to try out the new Tesla Magic Dock, especially for the Mini. We wanted to try that, and it worked really well. Kudos to Tesla for simplifying, the green CCS connector instead of having these like massive cables, this kind of like bulky interface. It was just super easy to figure out and plug in Tyler's car. The only downside is that it's super expensive for non-Tesla EVs. It's 49 cents a kilowatt hour.
Right.
Unless you pay the membership fee, which is $13 a month.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty expensive. I think it was like $7 or $8 for Tyler to charge his car back up to like 80 to 85%, which only gave him about like 70 miles.
Oh wow, interesting.
Yeah.
What kind of charging speeds did you see?
So for Tyler's Mini, it maxes out at 50 kilowatts, so we saw 50.
Okay. Gotcha.
But we did plug in the Model 3, which if you follow me on Twitter, you probably saw that monstrosity of charging adapters that I put together.
Right. Yeah.
But I had preconditioned the car from Erie, PA to Fredonia, so it had about an hour's worth of preconditioning, and it maxed out about 130 kilowatts using the Magic Dock.
With all the adapters and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it quickly dropped to 108 kilowatts, and I'm like, this is stupid. I probably shouldn't, charge with all these adapters. So I plugged in the Tesla connector, and it charged at 108 kilowatts anyways. So like, I got there about like 40%. So like, it still was it kind of missed its like peak rate of charge. Yeah. But at max, I saw about 130 kilowatts with the Magic Dock.
Interesting.
I think the thing that impressed me most about the Magic Dock is that you think it would be heavy, with that like adapter on the end, not the extra adapter I added, but just the Magic Dock adapter. Yeah. And it was not like at all. Like I think it will be very easy for people to like plug in their vehicle and like carry the cable because it's so thin to their vehicle. I was pretty impressed with it. They did a good job.
Yeah. That's one of the things that frustrates me with some of the just charging hardware is how freaking heavy some of the cables are. And like sometimes they don't have like any kind of cable management either to help take some of the load off that cable. Like Tesla's literally, it feels like you're plugging in a vacuum sometimes. It's so light on the V3s. Like it is insane. It's like, why can't all of them be like this? So
I know. Yeah, even their level 2 chargers. I stopped at one of their destination chargers on the way home, and it was a brand new unit they just installed, and the cable was like a dime in diameter, like like a small dime. Yeah. It was so easy to carry around, and it could charge at 10 kilowatts. And I'm like, how is Tesla able to create such slim cords?
Right.
When you have all these other companies that like their cords are thick and they're hard to maneuver and like I don't know. I just can't understand it.
I will say Tesla, I think, kind of, not that they like skirt the rules, but they definitely like, they don't oversize anything, if that makes sense. Like they don't oversize cables for more power. They don't oversize them for anything. Like it is all like as small as possible and thin as possible when they can do it. So I think that's been pretty consistent across a lot of their design stuff, is kind of the minimum that gets the job done without like overdoing it. So which sometimes is to a fault, but for charging, I mean, it seems to work. So
yeah, it definitely is kind of a fault with the Magic Dock. Depending on where your charge port is for your specific vehicle, it might be hard to park. Right. You might be blocking 2 spots.
Right.
So, I mean, thankfully this is just a pilot, but it was pretty cool to get a chance to like check it out. So
definitely,
you have to make if you get a chance, definitely. Right, yeah, absolutely. We'll have to adapter that adapter again. It's the only way to charge. It's the Brita filter of charging. That's what we're calling it.
The real question is, when is Tesla adding CHAdeMO to their superchargers?
Oh, yeah. I did have somebody ask me that on Twitter, and I was like, yeah, and I'm
jokingly,
like, no,
or
no, like being serious.
Oh, man.
And I was just like, yeah, I get it. that is being phased out from the majority of vehicles once the Nissan Leaf, stops being produced.
Yeah.
But and then you only have the Outlander or the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV that has CHAdeMO still, and that's it. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's I've had like some questions similar to that, and it's like, if you actually, I might have mentioned this on one of the podcasts, but basically the ratio of CHAdeMO plugs to CHAdeMO ports on vehicles is already higher than CCS. Meaning, like, there are way more options for people with CHAdeMO vehicles compared to, obviously, the other vehicles in kind of the EV fleet than there are for CCS vehicles. So, I mean, there are plenty of CHAdeMO chargers out there already. Obviously, there aren't, there's a small, group of people that may benefit from it, but I think, when budget's limited, you almost kind of have to, see what's going to work for everybody, or more the majority, kind of the situation we're in with EVs. So,
yeah, exactly.
But this episode isn't about the Magic Dock.
No, but it's a good transition into what we're about to talk to,
right?
Because I do want to talk about the cost of how much it cost for that trip.
Yeah.
So, and this is where it does get confusing, which kind of ties into our last episode with like threats to EV adoption.
Right.
Ohio, MPA, and New York had different pricing structures for Electrify America. So I can't speak to New York because we didn't plug into an EA station there, but Erie charged by the minute, and Ohio charged by, or PA charged by the minute, and Ohio charges by the kilowatt hour delivered to your vehicle.
Yeah.
So all in all, for Tyler's Mini, I think it was like maybe $30 to $35 to do that trip. It was like a 3.5 hour drive. We drove about 300 miles.
Wow.
So it's not too bad. But the Tesla was only like $9 because we only plugged in one.
Right.
So
I'm thinking though, like if you just hypothetically, if you had a somewhat efficient, 40 mile per gallon car, you would have spent, gosh, you said 300 miles. Let's just say 30 mile per gallon to make the math easier.
Yeah.
You're filling up 10 gallons, and gas is probably, I don't know what it is in our area right now, actually. That is the benefit of EVs, is you just forget about gas prices. It's great.
Exactly.
Got nothing to talk about with anybody.
Last time I checked, I think it was like 330 here in
I've seen 330 to 350, like it's kind of mid threes. So anyway, so I guess you're kind of on par with, gas prices with a inefficient, gas car, which I don't know what does the gas Mini get? I feel like it's pretty efficient for
I think it's in the 30s.
Okay. So 30s or mid 30s maybe for the Mini.
I don't know.
So I'd say it's pretty comparable, maybe even slightly cheaper, even though, we were chatting before, rates have gone up on charging too, so it's getting a little bit closer to gas.
Yeah, it was pretty equivalent, I think. If we had a gas vehicle and took that trip, so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah. What about your Tesla? Because you followed the Mini, right? It was both of you that went. So what was it on the Tesla, if you remember?
It was only $9 to go from Cleveland to Fredonia.
Seriously?
We didn't have to stop it. Yeah, we wouldn't have to stop at all to get to Fredonia in the Tesla. Yeah. But I did purposely. I went around trying different charging stations and stuff like that. I mean, why not? It's what we do.
Right.
But it was only about $9 to go.
That's pretty good.
100, about 300 miles ish. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
The other part people miss, even though some public fast charging rates are going up, one thing that I think people forget about is you do leave your house with a full tank, if you will, a full battery. Mm-hmm. So a bulk of at least the initial leg of your trip, if you are making multiple stops, sometimes you can your cost is even lower because you're not, paying that market rate or that high supercharging rate every single stop. It's only, after you've kind of run out of your initial range. So you can use your lower electricity rates at home to get you a little jump start there.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that being said, it's probably maybe $14 in total to do that trip
with your home charging and the stop.
Because we charged at home from 20% to 100%. So it was essentially filling up a full battery.
Yeah.
And the rates at the New York supercharger were 39 cents a kilowatt hour. So they were a little steeper in this area than what you would see in Ohio.
Right.
But it was kind of on par. Right. So
nice.
It wasn't too bad.
Very cool. So I'm obviously in a house now. I mean, I figured I'd give kind of an update of what my home charging costs have been since I'm now charging at home. I have to pay for electricity. I can track that all now. The Tesla app has gotten really user friendly now, so you can be if somebody asks, how much are you paying to charge your car? You can pull it up within seconds and show them. So I figured I'd at least talk about some of that on the show here. So the big thing to remember is that Mallory is now driving, very far to work. It's a half-hour drive one way. So actually, I'm going to look up how many miles that is, so we have some context here.
That's not too bad. 30. You said 30 minutes.
30 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
So
that's not
from my house. Sorry if you're hearing a bunch of clicks. It's a
podcast.
Yeah. It's about 20 miles there, 20 miles back. So about 40 miles round trip.
Okay.
If you think about it, adding up over time, that's what 40 times 5. I mean, that's 200 miles a week, right?
Yeah.
Which adds up.
Yeah.
Nearly 1,000 a month. So we're putting a decent amount just with her going back and forth to work. That's not accounting for any of our other driving. So I've actually noticed our utility bill go up a decent amount just because she is driving so much. And that translates to a decent chunk of battery as well. So I think on average she usually gets home with around 75% ish, and then we charge up to 90%. So I've adjusted some of it depending on, because I think 80 is slightly better. So it's either, sometimes it's 65 to 80. So it kind of adjusts depending on how I'm feeling, I guess.
Yeah.
But we're basically adding, 15 to 20% onto the battery every day. So that accounts for a decent chunk of battery if you've got, a longer commute. And I might have misspoke on the numbers there because I'm curious what the car's at right now. Because we did some
that healthy zone.
Yeah, exactly. We did some driving after she got home today, so this battery is actually not accurate. And I also forgot to charge the car last night, so I actually have no frame of reference if this is correct.
Oh no! Scratch the episode.
Yeah. And I realized after I got upstairs to record that I didn't fully plug my car in, so I've got to go back down afterwards and plug it back in. So it's been a rough couple days of charging the car.
No. When you say not fully plugged in, is it just sitting there, like connected?
It didn't click and connect, so I don't know if the adapter is loose or something. Because I'm testing the Nudo home charger right now, so that's also part of it. I've got to use the adapter and stuff. So, yeah, not the ideal setup right now. So I got to go check on that. But anyway, I'm getting off track here. Basically, I guess I can give you kind of an average day. It looks like we're adding.
I'm pulling up mine too.
So I'm just looking at the month of February. And can't you click and hold to see what a specific day is? That's what I'm trying to do here. Okay.
You should be able to.
Mine's not letting me do that for some reason. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I'd say an average day we probably add 20 kilowatt hours to the battery.
Okay.
So average, Maui goes to work, she comes home, she plugs in, whatever, about 20 kilowatt hours. That is based on our, home rates, we are at around 12 cents per kilowatt hour here. So, average day, let me do the math real quick because I can't do that in my head. 12 cents times 20. I should be able to do that. So about $2.40 per day for her whole commute. So, less than, cup of coffee, less than a cost of a gallon of gas. So, similar price to, if you were driving an efficient car, you get 40, 45 miles per gallon. It's probably pretty comparable, but, gas prices are continuing to go up. But our electricity rates are also pretty low. So just looking at, the month of January was an average kind of travel month for us. We got through, actually, you brought it up in the pre-show, I have not fast charged since December 28th. I have not plugged into a supercharger in that long. So all of my charging has been at home. So the month of January, with all the driving we were doing, we did 100% home charging. We only spent $61 on charging for the entire month of January. Wow. So I think that's pretty good. I feel like, if $61 covers all of your transportation for an entire month, I feel like that's a pretty good amount.
Yeah.
Obviously that's excluding the cost of the car and stuff, but that's what we spent in the month of January. February we did drive a little bit more. We spent $69 for all of the charging. We had I actually have an other charging on here, which I believe was plugged in at, a hotel or something like that. I can't remember what we did in February where we would have been plugged in somewhere else. But we do have some kind of other charging that happened in February. And then so far in March, we're only a few days in right now. But we've used 134 kilowatt hours and we've only spent $16. But we've also been driving a lot more in March, so we'll see how that kind of ramps up because it's been a pretty heavy drive month so far. We're likely going to be doing some more traveling. So,
I mean, if you really factor in, give or take, $60-ish to drive 1,000 plus miles, around 1,000 miles just on commuting, that's not bad. That's actually significantly more affordable than having to pay for gas.
Right. And that's the biggest thing I've noticed. Like I said, I have not fast charged or stopped at a supercharger since last year, literally. So even with all of the driving we're doing, if we do have a big drive day, like we were just in Upper Sandusky, visiting Mallory's family the other day, we drove all the way there and all the way back and didn't have to stop the entire way. That's an hour and a half, almost 2 hour drive up there. So we were able to get all the way up there and back. Some of it's back roads, so you're not going, the full 75, 80. So that helps a little bit.
I mean, you could. It would just be a bit wild.
Well, yeah. You can go any speed you want for a price, right?
Right, exactly.
But yeah, we got all the way there, all the way back without stopping at a fast charger. So again, that's saving us money by not using a supercharger or not using, an EA station or an EVgo station that may have higher rates than we have at home for 12 cents a kilowatt hour. Because, I mean, you just said it's probably at least 2 times or 3 times that rate for fast chargers now, right? So
yeah, it's definitely a range. If you're trying to get a good understanding of what it's like to fast charge, download those apps and get a good idea of like what the pricing is, because like the EVgo near us in Ohio, they just introduced time of use charging like costs. And on peak, it's 57 cents a kilowatt hour, which is extremely expensive. And even when it's off peak, it drops down to, I think, around 40 cents. So, like, even that's still, up there. So it definitely is way more cost effective to charge at home if you're able to. But that's where they have those different membership fees and stuff like that. But still, it's expensive.
Right. It can get really complicated.
Yeah. You had me thinking about mine. I was kind of curious to see where my most expensive was for like the past year. And in August of last year and September of last year, we did a lot of driving. We spent about $235 on supercharging as well as like charging at home. And that was for a little bit over 1,000 kilowatt hours. And to go about 4,000 or to use about 4,000.
What's 1,000 kilowatt hours in Model 3 batteries?
Oh God!
Is yours an 82 kilowatt hour or 75?
Yeah, it's a long.
I think yours is an 82.
I think it's a 75.
Is yours a long range?
Yeah.
Okay, it's an 82 then, because you've got a newer one. So, I've learned that if you give like a number, it's good to give like a reference to that, so people know like what does that mean? What's 1,000 kilowatt hours? Like most people don't know what that is. So I'm trying to equate it to like that's roughly 12 full batteries for your car to give it some perspective. So anyway, sorry to cut you off.
Oh no, you're good. No, you're good. And to tie it to another number, that's about like if you are charging to 100%, that's about 358 miles on a good day worth of driving. So like, that's not bad at all. No. It says we saved almost $1,100 in the past year compared to gas, like what we'd spend on gas. So I'll take that.
April to March.
Yeah, April to March. And we've actually had our Model 3 for a year as of yesterday. So
that's right. Yeah. Congrats.
Yeah. Crazy times.
So I probably have you beat here because, what is your past year? How many kilowatt hours did you charge?
Oh, I just clicked away.
Sorry.
1 second.
I want to compare here because I think I have you beat in cost savings.
You said for the year?
Yeah, April 2022 to March 2023.
3,964 kilowatt hours.
Okay, so I did almost double.
Jeez.
I did, well, what'd you say, 3,400?
About almost 4,000.
Okay, yeah, so I did 7,623 kilowatt hours.
Jeez.
Only spent $705 on charging. How much did you spend, did you say?
734.
Okay, so I have all the free supercharging, so that helped with my cost over the past year. And my gas savings are $2,840.
That's crazy.
That's pretty insane.
Yeah, you got all that free supercharging that's helping out.
Yeah. That's all gonna go away in November, so I got to do a lot of driving to make up for it.
Well, come up to Cleveland.
I gotta, yeah. I'm curious if I can make it there without stopping. Should I like hypermile it up there so I don't have to use? No. I have to continue my streak.
Yeah, you should be able to get up here without charging. We can get down to Columbus without charging.
That's true. Yeah, we usually leave with about 100%. I think it's only if it's like a really cold day that we usually stop in like Mount Gilead or whatever the charger is there. But I might have to do that. Yeah,
well, I've like we'll test it this weekend.
Right. I've continued to preach, and like the more I think about it, I'm like, we have way too much of a focus on fast charging, like especially if it does continue to get more expensive to fast charge. People are going to be like, well, what's the point of having an EV if it's, as expensive to as gas to fill up, and I've got to stop all the time and all this stuff. And it's like, I mean, my example is a good a mini case study, if you will. Obviously it's anecdotal, but it's like, I have not used one in 3.5 months. So it's like you really do not need to fast charge that often. I'd probably wager to say that you probably wouldn't either, unless you were an EV nerd, right? And like going to checkout stations and check things out, right? So
yeah. More than likely, like if you weren't actually going on a road trip, you would probably just essentially charge at home if you're able to, or wherever there's an AC charger. Yeah. Like that's like you just hit it right on the head. Unless you're an EV nerd and you absolutely want to go try the chargers. It's funny, Tyler fights with me all the time because I'm like, oh, I want to just go test out that charger. And he goes, why? I'm like, because I want to. Because I want to. But most people aren't like that, so.
That's funny.
Yeah, but no, I agree with you. I really think that there's such a emphasis on fast charging when there really needs to be more solutions for, accessible home charging. And obviously, we've had a lot of conversations about that. Orange Charger has been on our podcast. Like, there's a lot of companies who are pushing that forward, and that's great.
Right.
And I think it's so much money to install fast chargers.
Right.
That there has to be more solutions than just that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be, places where people are parking their cars. Like, I think we don't really realize how underutilized our cars are as, tools. Like, they sit there for the majority of the day. Like, unless you do drive for a living, I always give that caveat because there's somebody that's like, oh, well, I drive, 8 hours every day. It's like, that is not the norm. But it does, those situations are out there. But with, majority of people, their car is sitting for 20 plus hours a day. Like, legit. Like, even Mallory with a long commute, and we did some driving, our car's been sitting, parked for still 20 plus hours, like this entire, past 24-hour cycle. So there's plenty of opportunities to charge.
Definitely.
One thing I did want to bring up. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I just want to touch on that really fast.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Like, cars mostly sit there, for the majority of their existence.
Yeah.
And Tyler and I are going through that right now with how expensive, like, car payments are, especially due to, like, interest rates and stuff like that. It's like we both literally work from home.
Yeah.
And, they just sit there, and, like, that's the downside is that the Mini Cooper is a lot of fun, but for the car payment and for the amount of range you get, it wasn't exactly the best financial purchase that we could have made. But like, it is what it is. But yeah, they just sit there. So we're kind of brainstorming of what we want to do next. It's like, how do we save money there?
Right. Yeah. That's the hard part too. I know we're kind of getting sidetracked from cost of charging, but like what Mallory and I have realized is like it is a pain like a few times a month that we don't have two cars. And it's like, is that worth, the extra, hundreds of dollars we'd be paying per month for another car? Or like, we actually just moved her car back up to her hometown. So we got rid of her big SUV that was kind of our backup car. No. So we literally are down to one car right now. But, I do have the e-bikes. I have, like, other modes of transportation. If I really need to ride somewhere, I could pay, the $25 for a Lyft ride or an Uber ride somewhere. So, there are other options out there if you don't want a full car payment and still kind of have the flexibility of two cars. So.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'll get off my
soapbox. Sorry to get... Yeah. No worries. It's all money related.
Right.
So... Yeah, I didn't mean to distract you. What were you going to bring up?
So I did want to share. I'm not sure. Cut me off if I've shared this on the podcast before, but I recently took a trip up to ONU and charged overnight at the hotel there. And my charging fee was incredibly expensive for a few reasons. Did I share this at all? Okay.
No, but I think you should preface why it's more expensive because of what ONU did with the non-network charger.
Yeah. So the background here is I stay at the hotel on campus at ONU, my alma mater. The charger they used to have there was a Clipper Creek, non-networked. It was great. You show up, you charge your car. and leave. Like, no payment. You don't have to worry anything. It's just kind of a what do you call that? An amenity of the hotel, right? I think they had realized, and we've talked about free charging before. Unfortunately, people sometimes take advantage of that. I had that situation where, like, I pulled up to charge my car. This guy wasn't even staying at the hotel. He was just, like, passing through and knew that charger was free, so he would stop there after work and sit there for a few hours, and, like, very weird situation. So I think they had caught on to, some people were doing that and just taking advantage of it. So they went in and replaced it with a charge point charger. That's all fine. I don't mind paying for charging. It's not a big deal. Like, it's probably better for them, making sure the charger's up and running, collecting payment, little additional revenue for everything. All fine and good. The issue becomes when you don't, like, set those prices appropriately. And the way this charger was priced, I've actually got to pull up, what the charger was.
Yeah, they can get expensive. There's a charge point station near us that's like $5 an hour, and it's a level 2.
Right.
It's like, okay, the most you're going to get is 25 miles for $5. It's like, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my charging, bill, if you will. The price setup for this charger is the price tiers for this charger are $1 per hour for the first 4 hours, which generally 4 hours on my car is enough to get, about a third of a battery ish, 25 to 30% of a battery. After those 4 hours are up, it moves to $4 per hour. So,
oh my God.
As you can see, that can ramp up pretty quickly after the 4th hour you're plugged in. Especially if you're plugged in for 9 hours, like I was.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
So, I had, 4 hours at $1 per hour. That gives me $4. After that time limit was exceeded, it moves to that $4 per hour, whether you are charging or not, whether you're actively pulling energy or not. It does not matter. So, I got up. I wasn't, worried about going to unplug my car because I figured it'll be fine. I look in the app to see how it's been going. I assumed that price would cut off after you finish charging.
Yeah.
It did not. So I was plugged in for 9 hours, 49 minutes, and 21 seconds at $4 per hour, which adds up to $39.29.
Oh, jeez.
So... prefacing, going back to, how much my home charging is costing, not very expensive, for a 40-mile round trip, it's less than, a cup of coffee. To then, wake up and see that in the morning and be like, what the hell? So, I still need to email them about this, actually, because I'm not a fan of this price setup. I understand, why they went this route, because if people are coming during the day, they don't want somebody, parking there for 10 hours and blocking the charger if somebody is truly trying to use it. I understand that completely. I think for overnight charging, you've got to have a different kind of price setup in effect, right? Absolutely. I don't think it makes sense to have the $4 per hour at 2 a.m. when my car finishes charging. And continue to charge me just because I'm plugged in. That doesn't make any sense. So... I don't know. Wow. I was not
really trying to recoup that install cost.
Yeah, right. A couple $40 charges later. Yeah,
right. Wow.
So
now, did you know that going in? Like, that's what the price setup was?
So I probably should have looked at it closer because it didn't say like, oh, price stops when you finish charging. I did kind of assume that, but in the back of my head, I'm like, it's probably going to continue to charge me if I don't unplug my car. So,
yeah.
But also, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, after 4 hours, I go out, I turn off the charger, I turn it back on to finish my session. Like, that is so inconvenient. And, like, I'm not going to wake up at, like, 1 in the morning when my car is, finished and then unplug it, plug it back in to start a new session. Like, that just makes no sense. So... yeah.
I saw, it's funny you mentioned that because I actually saw somebody, I think it was on Twitter, somebody commented that there's like some charge point station in New York where it's at a bank and it literally powers off at 5 p.m. Like, it's just turned off, and then it only turns back on during business hours. And their comment was, why is EV charging so complicated? And I'm not talking about like, you know, like just getting a charger to start, but there's so many of these like weird off settings that like these businesses are starting to like implement on charging stations, where if you went to the Shell or like, you know, like the Get-Go down the street, you can get gas 24/7 as long as that gas station is open. It just blows my mind. And the only reason I ask if you knew that before, because I've fallen in that trap too, specifically with ChargePoint, where they'll have like a parking fee, where it's like at a dealership, and the dealership set $1 an hour parking fee. And or like there's like a $3 session fee just to start charging, and then you have to pay per the hour, and it's like, this is nuts. They don't charge you a session fee at the gas station.
It's a great point. Yeah.
It's just nuts. It's almost like these companies really want to like incentivize, you know, holding back EV adoption just by making it way too complicated. I just don't get it.
I'll get to that in a second. I do want to have like, just to have a slightly positive spin. We'll end with a negative spin with my comment on that. The positive spin on the charging fee I just discussed is like, that can be improved. So like, what would I do in this situation? Like, how would you set it up? Like, do you have any, before I give mine, do you have like, how would you set up a charging fee at a hotel for a situation like that?
I would price it around what the kilowatt hour rate would be, but a little bit higher. So like, you know, like just slightly higher. So like the hotel is still recouping how much that electricity would cost, and then make a little bit off of that. That's what I would call it a day. But
and then no idle fees, no extra fees for like if your car finishes charging or anything like that.
I would do idle fees, but like, you know, something that incentivizes, hey, move your vehicle. But nothing like too extreme. Like, I don't think I would do like a $10 a minute idle fee or something like that. It's,
I think the better way to do this is exactly what you said. Have a 10 to 15% markup on your electricity rate again, so you're kind of recouping your energy costs. I think that's completely fair. I have no problem doing that as a driver. Then the idle fees have some sort of grace period. Since it's a hotel, I think a half hour to an hour is reasonable. And then don't have that idle fee come into effect until 8 or 9 a.m. Because people are still, or maybe checkout time is a good time to do that. The 10 a.m. checkout is pretty consistent across hotels. Don't have that idle fee in effect until 10 a.m. Because then you're inconveniencing your guests by saying, oh yeah, you've got an idle fee that's going to take effect, at 7:30 a.m. or something like that. You've got to, get
earlier.
up, throw some clothes on real quick, go unplug your car, go move your car, come back into your room, pack up your stuff, go get breakfast, come out, pack up your car, and then leave. Like, that is an awful hotel experience. So
absolutely,
that is the way I would set it up. I think it's more fair that way. That's what I'm going to propose to ONU, actually, is that they do this. I keep meaning to email them. This happened like a month ago now, so we'll see if they're still receptive to it. But yeah, like I talked to somebody else that I know that went there and is actually on the board at ONU, and he had the same experience because he drives a Tesla, and he came up to use the charger, and he's like, yeah, I woke up in the middle of the night to go unplug my car, so I didn't get that crazy fee. And I'm like, that's absurd.
You shouldn't have to. Like, that's the thing. You shouldn't have to. It goes back to that comment I mentioned earlier. why do these companies make EV, charging so complicated?
And to be fair, I don't want to badmouth ONU here. They might not have been given fair guidance on this either, or like proper guidance on how to set pricing. Setting pricing for EV charging is something many industries and many hotels is a clear example. They've never had to think about. They know how to set room rates. Like, that is what they are like set up to do. They're not set up to set rates on EV charging. So I think as drivers, we've got to be a little bit more vocal, because like in the past it was like, oh great, there's a charger. Like, I don't care what it costs. Like, that's great that we have it. And like, I think we're almost like putting up with too much to be like, oh, it's great you have chargers, but I would tweak this thing. It's like, no, like, make it better. Like, people aren't going to want to even use this if you set it so high. Like, I'll just wait and go supercharge somewhere on my way home. Like,
No, absolutely. No, I agree with you. I mean, and you hit it on the head with that positive spin. All of this can be changed,
right?
But the thing is that we have to be vocal and we have to provide our feedback. Like,
yeah.
we, through ChargeWay, we have users report problems all the time with chargers.
Yeah.
And part of my job, whenever it comes through, I can reach out to like the site hosts and just ask like, hey, we received this feedback. Are you guys going to do this, that? Are you going to fix it? So forth. And they love hearing that because they want to know people are actually going to be utilizing this and how they can make it better for the people who are coming to their business.
Right.
So they're perceptive to it, or receptive. Yeah.
Yeah. Both work. Yeah.
Both work.
I will say, like, especially want to echo that is like reaching out to the site hosts directly, the networks directly, like being vocal about that. Cause like, just complaining about it on social media doesn't really get too far. Like if you're maybe proposing a solution to the site owner, sometimes they don't know, like they're not going to always read your tweets. Like just go confront them directly. Like be nice about it, obviously. Cause like I said, they might not have any background. They're not familiar with this. This is all new. But, like, propose some good solutions. Like, let them know you're upset about it. But, hey, like, we can improve this and make it better. So
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the common trend that I've noticed from recent episodes is that you keep saying it, this industry is new. It's still in its infancy. Things are going to change. Things are going to get better, but we all have to be that voice.
Right.
So, yeah. Well, I'm sorry you had to, deal with that massive fee.
Gave us something to talk about, so.
yeah, absolutely. But I feel like, when some people are spending like $80 on gas, I guess that's not like too bad in comparison. But when you're driving an EV, that's pretty expensive.
Yeah. So, especially when I know electricity rates in Ada are not that expensive.
Yeah. When when you're aware.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Oh man.
My only, I hate to end it on a negative note, but I got to say something because you brought up, like, people purposely making it a bad experience. And I've heard kind of this conspiracy theory. I, half believe it almost, but, I have heard because of just how much funding the EV industry is now getting from, large oil companies and things like that, they are almost purposely not putting enough resources or not planning things the correct way to make EVs sound bad and sound like a terrible idea. So,
yeah.
Not gonna ignite the fire, give too much, fan the flames too much there, but it's stuff they've done in the past. So just kind of be weary of that. That there are some bad actors out there that unfortunately are trying to make things look bad for other people. So
yeah, and I'm not going to fan that flames, but if you really pay attention, you can tell which companies are ran by EV enthusiasts and which ones are not.
Yeah.
So
that's one of my big things I look at in the industry, or even when somebody's talking about EVs, I definitely I have more respect and understand their opinion a lot more if they're an actual EV driver themselves, because they actually get it. They have experienced public charging. They've dealt with EVs. That definitely gives me nothing against people that drive gas cars, but if you're in the industry that's working on this stuff, I think it's very important to have an EV and at least have that experience. So
absolutely.
I mean, go rent one, go test it out for a week. That even gives me a lot more hope that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, things will get better. We won't Ben Affleck at this episode. But I need to know to wrap it up. What's the ONU chant or sport yell that you guys do? What is it?
I don't know.
Is it the Go Bears?
I've never heard of that before. The sports chant.
Yeah. So I don't watch sports. I watch RuPaul's Drag Race.
Different kind of athlete there.
Yeah, it's still a competition, but
that's right.
So you guys say Go Bears, right?
Yeah, we just say Go Bears generally. So
you don't go Bears?
You can, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I dated somebody that went to ONU, so technically that's my alma mater as well. So
technically, yeah.
Yeah, even though we broke up. So anyways, I just thought we could wrap up the episode on that. So
that's perfect. Yep. Go Bears.
Always awkward on my end. But well, we want to hear about your charging cost experience. Obviously, electricity rates across the country are different depending on where you live. If you have solar, so forth, let us know in the comments on YouTube. Let us know via social. We just want to hear from you guys.
Yeah, I'm sure some of the California listeners are very upset with us that we have, 12 or 15 cent per kilowatt hour electricity rates at home when theirs are literally double. So I feel for you because electricity is really cheap out here. So
yeah. I will say I would get out of the corn as much as I could just to live in California, but I'll keep this electricity rate.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
You start thinking about it, you're like, corn or, I can afford
cornfields,
food
oceans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, well, I did the intro, so I'll do the outro. We'll catch you guys in the next one.
Sounds good. See y'all later.